Be inspired, supported, and empowered. This is the Global Healthy Living Foundation podcast network.
One day I came across some paraclimbers on social media actually, and suddenly realized that maybe I could start climbing again. And just being part of that community really helps motivate me and helps me feel kind of welcome at the wall.
Welcome to Talking Head Pain, the podcast that confronts head pain head on. Hi, I'm Joe Coe, Director of Education Digital Strategy at the Global Healthy Living Foundation and a migraine patient for over 20 years. Today I'm joined by Hannah Frost. She lives with chronic migraine in the UK. She's a paraclimber, and she created a website called Climbing Through Migraine. Today we're going to talk about climbing, her worst migraine attack, and what she's learned doing this sport. We're going to dive right in. How are you feeling today, Hannah?
Yeah, no, I'm feeling good today, actually.
That's great. So am I. It's a little gloomy here in New York, but got a nice little walk-in before this recording, and I'm feeling good as well. So we'll feel good together. Walk us through your worst migraine attack. How did it feel, and what was it like?
My worst migraine attack was probably a few months ago. I went through this really bad patch where I had 5 days of straight, intense, agonizing migraine. I was just, stuck in a dark room, praying for it to end, not being able to do anything to help with the pain because it lasted for 5 days. And I'm a chronic migraine patient, and that means I can only take 3 of my acute medications a week. So I might have got that relief for 1 day or 2 days, but then it just came straight back just as strong, and it was agonizing and made me generally want something to happen to make it stop, or want to go to the emergency room, but also knowing that I couldn't get myself to the emergency room, and the emergency room is the last place I wanted to be, but I wanted that relief. I didn't go, I just waited it out, and eventually it calmed, but it was rough just because it was so long.
I can relate to the migraine attacks that could last multiple days, and it's like it's still here, and why is it here? I'm glad that it broke for you. How has this disease impacted your life?
I was training to be a lawyer, and then my chronic migraine got worse for some reason. And so, now I'm no longer working. I'm hoping to start doing some part-time work at some point soon. But right now, not working.
How did that make you feel, delaying your career?
I think the fact that I knew it was coming helped a lot. I knew I'd been on sick leave a lot, so I knew at some point it was going to come to an end. It was just a matter of when. So I kind of went through the motions of feeling that grief and that loss of my career before it happened, which probably sounds really weird, but I think by the time I actually lost my career, and I don't know if I'm ever going to go back to law, I might do if I get better enough to, it kind of strangely felt like a relief, because I was fighting so hard to try and be in work every day and putting myself through so much agony. But I was like, okay, this is over now. You don't have to fight anymore. But there are still times where I'm like, well, I want a normal life. I'd love to be able to earn my own money, have a normal life, get on with my career like everyone else my age.
I think that makes a lot of sense about preemptively mourning, knowing that something's coming. So I don't think that's strange. I also read and saw on social media that you've turned a lot of this negative experience into a positive through paraclimbing. So let us know what paraclimbing is and why that brings you joy.
Yeah, so I'm a climber and I'm disabled. I have a few other health conditions. I have Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome and functional neurological disorder. So I identify as a paraclimber. I started climbing years ago, and it instantly brought me so much joy. Kind of fell out of love with it a bit and had some health issues that meant I had to stop for a few years. But one day I came across some paraclimbers on social media actually, and suddenly realized that maybe I could start climbing again. And just being part of that community, even though I don't get to like see and climb with other paraclimbers much, knowing that there's other people like me climbing really helps motivate me and helps me feel kind of welcome at the wall. And it just generally brings me so much joy and passion to be able to climb and like work out problems and to focus on nothing else but the wall.
So climbing was something that you did before your chronic diseases were diagnosed, and you found that it helps you process and maintain some level of connection to your past. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that definitely is fair to say. Just generally, I do love the sport and it's nice to be able to do it again.
And you said you against the wall. That is an interesting visual. How does that relate to chronic disease, climbing a wall, that one-on-one battle?
When you're climbing a wall, so you'll have different problems and they're graded and they can often be like quite difficult to work out. Like you don't get to the top just instantly. And if you do get to the top instantly, that's not the most satisfying problem. I feel like it kind of relates to chronic illness because it shows kind of like that there's hard parts, there's times where you have to like slow down or say no, or times where like it actually is going well and you do get to the top easily. And I think generally it just kind of reflects on kind of being able to get to the top of a wall that was really hard is really satisfying, but equally being able to like do something that you didn't think you could do because of your chronic illness, that is also really satisfying.
That visual, Hannah, of climbing, and I've never climbed before, but I've seen people do it. And that thought, the shifting, oh, this isn't the right grip, the length, I have to go this way. And thinking about how our journey with chronic disease is not linear, although we're going forward most of the time. Sometimes we have to go back, and that's okay. I see people have to go back when they're climbing. So I think it's a really cool visual when we're talking about chronic disease that I haven't thought of prior to speaking with you. So thank you for painting that picture. You also created a bunch of accounts and a website called Climbing Through Migraine. Can you talk about what inspired you to start that and what you've learned being on TikTok, Climbing Through Migraine, your blog, and how you've connected with other patients?
Yeah, so with Climbing Through Migraine, I came up with the idea after my migraine got worse at the beginning of this year and kind of wanting to continue climbing through it because it's amazing physical therapy for me. I kind of had to learn how to navigate climbing with a migraine, climbing without a migraine, but not wanting to trigger a migraine. And also, I had to kind of figure out how to navigate safety issues. So I'm primarily a boulder, so I don't have to worry about like belaying someone else. But at the time, I was rope climbing quite a lot. So I had to kind of consider, is it safe for me to belay because I get quite dizzy with my migraines, and how to kind of make that safer. And I think all of that combined with the general environment of a wall, they're generally like loud and bright, made me kind of want to create some guides to help people manage climbing with a migraine and also review some walls. So right now it's mostly walls. Well, it's only walls in the UK, but I feel like I felt like I wanted to do that because then if someone comes across it, it gives them time to kind of prepare and bring what they might need to manage a situation.
Amazing. And if people have never climbed a wall before and live with migraine, what are some of the top tips that you would give, the top three that you would tell a new climber that lives with migraine?
I think I'd say definitely remember to make sure you're hydrated, make sure you have food in your stomach before you go, and bring water with you to avoid kind of dehydration and blood sugar drops as a trigger. And then a second tip would be to just take it easy for your first few sessions, see how you feel, because you don't want to push too hard and trigger a migraine. And it's better to kind of go too slow than go too hard and suffer for it. And then the third tip I would give would be to find a group of friends or a group of climbers who understand and will support you and won't treat you in a way that you don't want to be treated. finding that group of people who will support your highs and respect you when you don't want to give something another go, or when you feel like you just need to lie down on the mats and like take a break, is really important.
How does someone train to climb? Do you do things not on the wall to prepare yourself mentally and physically?
So I personally right now don't do things not on the wall. Probably should, but as a beginner, the easiest way to learn how to climb is to climb more, because so much of it is movement and technique and understanding the foundations of how to move more efficiently on the wall and make use of your strength. But once you're getting a bit better, you can buy fingerboards or hangboards, which they might be known in your country, and basically you'll put them on your door frame and they have little slots in for your fingers, and you hang off them. You can do pull-ups on them, and that's a way people train quite a lot for climbing, to kind of help improve that finger strength.
Very interesting. I'm thinking about you also living with Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome, and that for those that don't know, that could cause hyper flexibility or mobility. How have you adapted your practice based on that condition?
Very much with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, it does depend on the day. Sometimes I won't need to adapt my practice too much. There are moves that I can't do. So if things start with like a high foot, I just don't have the power through my leg and the stability through my hip to do very high feet. Can get my foot up there, but I can't use it. And I've just kind of adapted to knowing that that's something I struggle with, and kind of practicing it, but not so much that I get hurt. And then on like an average day to day, I'll normally put KT tape on something if it's hurting, be it my ankle, my wrist, or like my shoulder normally. And I'll just listen to my body. And if I try to stop doing something if a move is causing too much pain, I'm not very good at that, because I do get very stubborn when it comes to wanting to complete climbs. But if I'm not completely fixated on something, I will just decide it's not worth it if it's causing too much pain. And I really should do that more, and think everyone with EDS should just listen to the pain signals that the body has given them, because it is a strenuous sport, and it is easy to kind of pull something too much and get injured.
I've learned so much about that disease by watching and listening to a colleague in Australia. His name is Joey. He does a bunch of TikTok videos for us on the Global Healthy Living Foundation's TikTok. And I didn't know much about the disease prior to watching these TikToks. So really interesting that you also have that. And he shared a lot of the tips that you share. So Hannah, I really, really appreciate you joining Talking Head Pain. And for those, you can't see us, but my cat just came on camera because he's like, you haven't given me enough attention today. So he's gonna rub against the computer and make things shake. So sorry, Hannah, but thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, it was a pleasure to be able to join you today, and your cat's adorable.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Talking Head Pain, the podcast that confronts head pain head on. If you like this episode, please give it an honest 5-star rating and subscribe so you never miss another one. I'm Joe Coe, and I will see you next time.
Be inspired, supported, and empowered. This is the Global Healthy Living Foundation Podcast Network.